Hi geometry students, I hope you're doing good on this Wednesday. And today we're going to do the chapter review to kind of go over everything that we've learned in chapter 12. I hope that if you're struggling with any of the concepts that reviewing these problems will bring some clarity. So let's say a prayer. Father in heaven, I just thank you that you're faithful and you're good. I just pray that you would help my students to focus and really learn and master this material so they do great on their chapter 12 test. And I pray for myself that you would strengthen me and help me to be the very best teacher I can be, using words that will make it much simpler and easy. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, well, let's get started. I already wrote the problems down so we could save time doing that. So here's number one. I can't go over every type of problem, but it certainly will give you, every shape, everything, but it will give you an overview. So the first one is a polyhedron has 16 vertices and 24 edges. How many faces does it have? Well, this uses Euler's theorem. Faces plus vertices equals edges plus 2. So that would be, we don't know the faces, and the vertices are 16 and the edges are 24. So it's really quite an easy algebra problem here. And we solve for f and we get 10. Isn't that nice? Remember the marshmallows and Q-tips that we used to figure out where this came from? So we have 10 faces. Okay, you'll have to know how to use that theorem. All right, number 2. Find the surface area of a cylinder. Now, what I suggest that you do is to write a plan using some simple symbols, because that'll help you to make sure that you keep track of everything and you don't forget any of the sides, okay? So when we have the surface area of a cylinder, we've got 2 circles, and then we have one big rectangle that wraps around between them. And remember what we said, that this is 2 pi r, the circumference, and this is the height. So actually this length here is what wraps all the way around our circle. Okay, that's not 220, that's 2 circles. Okay, so I'm going to find pi r squared. And here I know the radius is 16. So I have pi times 16 squared, which is, let's see, 16 times 16 is 256. And if I multiply 256 times 3.14, I get 803.84. Can you guys please whisper? And then that rectangle is going to be length times width, and that is, like I said, it's 2 pi r times h, which is 2 pi times the radius, which is 16, and the height, which is 25. So if I multiply those together, 2 times 3.14 times 16 times 25, I get 2,512. All right, so 2 circles would be 2 times 803, and 1 rectangle. So then that's 2 times 803.84, and that gives me 1,600.68. And plus 2,512, and let's see what we get when we add those together. I get 119.68. That's funny because when I write it down, when I look at the answer when I did this before, I got this, 4121. Very close. So, just a couple points off. If I saw that on your paper, I would look back through your work and see that you've done it correctly, and then you would get full credit. Okay, so that's my answer, and it is, did they give us the measurements? It's inches squared, okay? Inches here. And it's squared because it's surface area. Okay, number 3, I have a prism, which is a rectangular prism. So to find the surface area, here's my plan. I'm going to have 2 triangles. Now be careful because I've got different rectangles. They have different sides, lengths. So I've got the one on the bottom, and then I got the slanted one on top, right? And then I have the one behind. And those all have 10, but they also have all the different lengths of the triangle. So I have to figure them out. Okay, so to find my surface area, I'm going to have 2 triangles. So that's going to be 2 times 1/2 base times height. So here's my base and height of the triangle. So I'm going to have 2 times 7 times 8. All right. And then one of my rectangles is going to go back like this on the bottom. See that? So that would be 8 times 10. That's one of them. The other one is on the back. So if this is 10, this is also 10. So that would be back here. And that's 7 times 10. And then the one I have slanted that's on the top here, do you see that? I need my hypotenuse. How am I going to find my hypotenuse? Well, obviously, if I have a right triangle, I'm going to use the Pythagorean theorem. So let's figure that out. I've got 7 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. 49 plus 64. And if I add those together, I get 113. So c is 10.63. All right, so now I know that. So then my last rectangle will be 10 times this here. This 10 refers to the bottom over there. So that's 10 times my hypotenuse, which is 10.63. Okay, so let's find the surface area. Do you see how it's helpful to have a plan written out? It would be so easy just to drop one of these pieces, and you want to make sure that you don't do that. Okay, so 2 times 1/2, that cancel each other. So 7 times 8 is 56. 8 times 10 is 80 and 70. And then I have 106.3. All right, and if I add those all together, I get 312.3. And that was, miles. Can't be. Let's just make it millimeters. Millimeters squared. Okay? Because it's surface area. Okay. 3 down, like 4 to go. We're doing great. Okay, so we're gonna find the surface area of this right cone. And our plan is I need the circle on the bottom, just one, plus the pie shape that goes all the way around, right? Remember that? That's something you have to know a formula for. So the circle is pi r squared, and the formula for this piece is pi r L, and L is this number right here, the lateral surface area. That's why they call it an L. Now, sometimes they give you this, and sometimes they don't. You need to be very careful that you remember it's the L. Sometimes they might give you the height inside and the radius, and you have to use the Pythagorean theorem to figure that out. Not in this problem, but you want to be extra careful with that. Don't just assume that the L is the height, okay? So my surface area is going to be pi times 6 squared, and then pi times 6 times 16. And when I work that out, I get 36 pi plus 96 pi, and that is 132 pi, which works out to be 414.48 centimeters squared. Okay. All right. So that's our answers there. Okay, number 5, let's find the volume. Now volume is different. Volume is for a prism, be careful, it's the base area times the height. That's different than pyramids or cones. Remember, those are 1/3. So I need to find the base area and the height. So what kind of a base do I have? I have 2 bases that are the same, and they are a triangle. So the area of the base is 1/2 little base times height. Okay? So I have 1/2 times 6 times 8, which works out to be 24. Okay, so my volume then will be base area times height, which is 24 times this height right here of my whole shape, which is 5. And when I work that out, I get 120. Now this is inches, so now volume, be careful. Volume is inches cubed, okay? All right. Now that's a little different than, okay. We're now going to do this shape. So we're going to find the volume of my pentagonal prism, which is the base area times the height. So I have to find the area of this pentagon, which I know all has the same size. Now how do we do that? Well, that goes back to chapter 11, where we had the apothem. Remember that? Okay. So the base area is going to be 1/2 A N S. Remember that formula? So I need the apothem. The only thing I have here, I'm going to redraw this out here. The only thing I have here is the 2. I don't have degrees. I don't have another length. So that means that each of these are 1, right? So what am I going to use? Well, I know because it's regular that I can find this angle measure. So the whole thing is 360 degrees. So if I divide that by 5, the number of sides, I get 72 degrees. So this angle right here, which is both of these, is 72. But I only need the height here, and I'm going to use trigonometry. So I don't want that, I want half of it. So I have to divide that by 2 again. Do you remember that? 36 degrees. So now, I'm going to erase this a little. I hope I'm not talking too fast. I know I'm going quickly. So if you need to pause it or rewind it, please do that. So this here now is 36 degrees. So I'm looking from this angle, and I want to find the height. And I have that 1 there. So I'm going to do opposite over adjacent. Remember that? Opposite over adjacent is tangent. So I've got tangent of 36 degrees is 1 over x. And when I work that out, I get 0.72 equals, I use the calculator, and now I have to multiply by x on both sides. So I get 0.72x equals 1. And now I divide by 0.72. And I get x is 1.389. Okay? So now I know the apothem. So when I'm figuring out my base area, I'm going to do 1/2 times 1.389, and then the number of sides is 5, and each side length is 2. Okay? So when I work that all out, the 1/2 and the 2 cancel, so I end up just multiplying the 5 times the 1.389, and I get 6.945. So that's my base area. So the volume is going to be 6.945 times the height of the whole thing right here, which is 8. So I multiply that out and I get, let's see, 6.945 times 8, 55.56, which is centimeters cubed. Okay, so that's how I find the base area of like a pentagon, a hexagon, an octagon. I'm going to have to use the trigonometry for that. All right, if we have time, we'll come back to the surface area of a cone. I really want to go over the scale factor ones because that can throw you off easily. So you want to pause this and write it down. I'm just going to read it and keep going. That's totally fine. Solid A is similar to solid B with the given scale factor of 3 to 5. The surface area is 70 centimeters squared and the volume is 25 centimeters squared. Find the surface area O and the volume of solid B. Okay, we don't even have to know what shape they are. We just need to know the relationship. So 3 to 5 is my side ratio. Remember that? Now, to find the surface area, what do I do to my side ratio? Well, I square it. So I take my side ratio and I square that to get the area ratio, which makes sense because the side ratio is 1 dimension and the area ratio is 2 dimensions. So I have to do it twice. Okay, so that means that I'm going to have 3/5 squared is 9 over 25. That's my area ratio. So now I can use that with the 70 I have for the small solid, or the first one. That's A. Remember, this means A over B, right? So if they're telling us the solid of A, that means that anything having to do with A is going to go on the top. And anything having to do with B is going to go on the bottom. Okay, how do I know that? Because the formula is A to B. So the book, when they're telling us solid A and solid B, they want you to make that connection. Okay, so then I'm going to have 9 over 25 equals and 70 over x. Once you square the ratio, that is really the key. You must always do that. Then I just cross multiply and I have 9x equals 25 times 70, which is 1750. Divide by 9. And I get 194.44. And that's centimeters squared. That's solid B. Where it gets tricky is that sometimes they'll give you the area ratio and you have to work with the side ratio or the volume ratio. You're going to have to take that square root to get to the side ratio. I hope that makes some sense. You have to be careful with that. All right, so let's do the second part. So I have 3/5 is my ratio, and I'm going to cube it for the volume. So that becomes 27 over 125. So I'm no longer using 3/5. I'm using my cubed formula. So I have 27 over 125 equals 25 over x. So now I cross multiply. Let's see what I get. 25 times 125. 3125. And then I divide. And I get 115.74. And that's centimeters cubed. So that is the volume of solid B. Okay, let's do one more of those. Actually, that's pretty good, okay? All right, so now let's go back and do the volume of a cone. So number 8, find the volume. And we have a picture like this. And we know the radius is 11 centimeters. And we know that that lateral surface area is 25 centimeters. Okay, so my formula is volume equals 1/3 area of the base times the height. Okay, so base area is going to be pi r squared, right? So I'm going to find that, which is going to be pi times 11 squared, which is 121 pi. And that gives me 379.94. Okay, so that's the base area. Now the height. Well, the height is missing. Here's one of those where I have the lateral surface area, but I don't have the height. So let's work on that using the Pythagorean theorem. So I don't know a squared, b squared is 11, and c squared is 25. So let's work that out. 625 minus 121 is 504. $22.44. Okay, so now I know the height. So when I'm finding the volume, I'm going to have 1/3 times 379.94 times, what was that? 22.44. So here I get 379.94 times 22.44 equals, divided by 3, and I get 2841.95 centimeters cubed. Okay, there you go. Now on this homework, because we're only doing one lesson for each day, I'm going to have you do the entire chapter review. Okay, so I will attach the answer key, and then you will have that and you can get to work, and we will have our test next week. So if you're interested in having tutoring tomorrow, please email me and we can talk about that. So I hope that helps you to get ready for your chapter test and that you have a great day. Bye.